Shut up! I'm teaching him a lesson." The cast-iron skillet trembled in Vanessa's grip, raised high above the crib where 8-month-old Nathan lay sleeping. Rosa pressed her back against the nursery wall, her whole body shaking. "Please, ma'am, please. He's just a baby. He doesn't understand." Vanessa's eyes were wild, her breathing ragged. "I said shut up. One more word and you're next." The skillet caught the afternoon light. Nathan's tiny fists curled in his sleep, and the woman who was supposed to love him more than anything in this world was about to bring that pan crashing down on his skull. Friend, before we continue this story, I need to ask you something. Please subscribe to this channel and stay with me until the very end. You won't believe what happens next. And drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far Nathan's story travels across the world. Now let's go back to the beginning. Marcus Thompson should have been the happiest man in Los Angeles that afternoon. He stood on the stage of the Grand Hyatt Ballroom, 300 guests seated before him, cameras flashing, champagne flowing. The grand opening of Thompson Pharmaceuticals' new manufacturing facility was everything he'd dreamed of for 15 years. City officials were there, investors who'd believed in him when no one else did. His mother had flown in from Atlanta, sitting in the front row with tears of pride in her eyes. And beside him, looking stunning in a cream-colored dress, was Vanessa Cole, his fiancée, the mother of his child, the woman he was going to marry in 32 days. Marcus squeezed her hand and leaned into the microphone. "I want to thank everyone for being here today. This facility represents years of hard work, sacrifice, and can I say something?" Vanessa's voice cut through the room. She was already reaching for the microphone, that beautiful smile spreading across her face. Marcus felt a flutter of surprise, but he stepped aside. "Of course, sweetheart." The crowd murmured approvingly. How sweet. The loving fiancé wanted to say a few words. Vanessa took the microphone. Her smile widened. "I just want everyone here to know something about my wonderful fiancé." Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. He hadn't expected this. "Marcus Thompson is brilliant," Vanessa continued. "Everyone knows that. He built this company from nothing. He's a genius businessman." The crowd nodded. Someone started clapping. Then Vanessa's voice changed. "But what you don't know is that Marcus Thompson doesn't know the first thing about being a father." The clapping stopped. Marcus's smile froze on his face. "Our son Nathan is 8 months old," Vanessa said, her voice rising. 8 months, and in that time Marcus has probably spent a total of 10 hours with him. 10 hours. While he was building this empire, his son was at home wondering where his daddy was. The silence in the room was deafening. "So while you're all here celebrating his success, I want you to remember something." Vanessa's eyes swept across the crowd. "Success built on an abandoned family isn't success at all. It's failure wearing an expensive suit." She set the microphone down gently, turned and walked toward the exit. 300 pairs of eyes turned to Marcus. He stood frozen on that stage, his prepared speech crumbling in his hand, his mother's face pale with shock, his business partners exchanging uncomfortable glances. Someone coughed. Someone else whispered. And Marcus Thompson, who had never felt small in his entire life, suddenly felt like he was 2 inches tall. The drive home through LA traffic felt like it took forever. Marcus gripped the steering wheel so hard, his knuckles turned white. His phone had been buzzing non-stop since he left the venue. Kevin, his mother, business partners, everyone wanting to know if he was okay. He wasn't okay. He kept replaying Vanessa's words in his mind, the coldness in her voice, the calculated precision of her attack. This wasn't a woman who'd snapped under pressure. This was something else entirely. His phone buzzed again. Kevin's name flashed on the screen. Marcus answered. "Where are you, man? Everyone's asking about you." "I'm going home." "Marcus, what the hell just happened? Vanessa completely blindsided you up there." "I know." "Are you two fighting? Did something happen?" Marcus hesitated. "I don't know, Kevin. I honestly don't know." "You want me to come over?" "No, I need to talk to her, figure out what's going on." "All right, brother. Call me if you need anything." Marcus hung up and turned onto his street in Bel Air. The mansion rose before him, all white columns and manicured hedges. He'd bought this house 2 years ago, dreaming of filling it with a family, with laughter, with love. Now it looked different somehow, darker, like something was waiting inside. He pulled into the driveway and sat there for a moment, taking deep breaths. Maybe she felt neglected. Maybe the wedding stress was getting to her. Maybe if he just talked to her calmly, they could work this out. He got out of the car and walked toward the front door. The house was quiet when he stepped inside. Too quiet. Usually there was noise. The television, Rosa humming in the kitchen, Nathan babbling upstairs. But today there was nothing. Just silence pressing down on everything like a heavy blanket. Marcus closed the door softly. "Vanessa." No answer. "Rosa." Nothing. And then he heard it. A voice, faint, trembling, coming from upstairs. "Please, ma'am, please don't do this." That was Rosa, and she was begging. Marcus's blood went cold. "He's just a baby. Please put it down." Marcus didn't think. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He sprinted toward the stairs, his Italian leather shoes pounding against the marble floor. He took the steps 2 at a time, 3 at a time, his heart slamming against his ribs. Rosa's voice came again, broken and desperate. "Please, ma'am, please, I'll do anything. Just put it down." Marcus reached the top of the stairs. The nursery door was slightly open. He could see shadows moving inside. He pushed the door open, and what he saw stopped his heart. Rosa was pressed against the wall near the window, her face streaked with tears, her hands raised in front of her like she was trying to ward off a demon. Vanessa stood over the crib. Her back was to the door. Her shoulders were rigid, and in her right hand, raised high above her head, was a cast-iron skillet. Below her in the crib, in his little yellow onesie, was Nathan, sleeping, innocent, completely unaware that his mother was about to bring that pan down on his skull. Marcus couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. The woman he loved, the woman he was going to marry, the mother of his child, standing over his baby with a weapon in her hand. Rosa saw him first. "Sir," she whispered, her voice cracking. Vanessa's body went stiff. For a long, terrible moment, she didn't move. The skillet stayed raised. Nathan slept peacefully beneath her. Then slowly she turned around, and Marcus watched something terrifying happen. The rage on Vanessa's face melted away, just dissolved, like it had never been there. In its place came confusion, surprise, innocence. She lowered the skillet and smiled. "Marcus, you're home early." Her voice was light, casual, like he'd just caught her reading a book instead of standing over their son with a weapon. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed up completely. Vanessa glanced down at the skillet in her hand, then laughed softly. "Oh, this I was trying to kill a rat." Rosa saw it and completely panicked. You know how dramatic she gets. She set the skillet on the dresser and walked toward him, her arms open for a hug. Marcus took a step back. Vanessa stopped. A flicker of something crossed her face. Annoyance, fear. "Baby, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus looked at Rosa. The maid's face was pale. Tears were still streaming down her cheeks. She opened her mouth to speak. "Rosa." Vanessa's voice was sharp, a warning. Rosa closed her mouth and looked at the floor. Marcus felt something twist in his gut, something cold and dark. "I'm going to take Nathan," he said, his voice flat. He walked past Vanessa, picked up his son from the crib, and held him against his chest. Nathan stirred, made a soft cooing sound, and settled against his father's shoulder. Marcus walked out of the nursery without another word. Behind him, he heard Vanessa call out, "Marcus, baby, what's wrong?" He didn't answer. He just kept walking, holding his son tight, his mind spinning with one terrible question. Who is this woman? Marcus didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed beside Vanessa, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. She'd acted completely normal all evening, made dinner, watched television, kissed him goodnight like nothing had happened, like he hadn't found her standing over their baby with a skillet raised above her head. Every time Marcus closed his eyes, he saw it, the skillet, Nathan's tiny body, Rosa's terrified face, and Vanessa's smile when she turned around, that calculated, practiced smile. He turned his head and looked at her sleeping form. "Who are you?" He thought about when they'd met. A charity gala in Beverly Hills 18 months ago. She'd been working as an event coordinator. Beautiful, charming, attentive. She'd laughed at his jokes, remembered details about his life, made him feel like the most important man in the room. Now he wondered if any of it had been real, the way she'd started changing over the past few months. Snapping at Rosa over nothing, spending hours on her phone, always walking away when he came into the room. The way she looked at Nathan sometimes like he was an inconvenience rather than a blessing. Marcus had noticed, but he'd made excuses. Wedding stress, new mother exhaustion. She just needed time to adjust. He'd been blind, and his son had almost paid the price. Marcus got out of bed quietly and walked down the hall to the nursery. Nathan was sleeping peacefully, his tiny chest rising and falling, his little fists curled beside his face. Marcus stood over the crib, his heart aching with a fierce, protective love. "I won't let her hurt you," he whispered. "I promise you, whatever it takes." But even as he said the words, fear gnawed at his stomach. Vanessa lived in this house. She slept in his bed. She had access to Nathan whenever Marcus wasn't home. How could he protect his son from someone so close? He needed answers, he needed help, and he needed them fast. The next morning, Marcus found Rosa in the kitchen at 6 a.m. She was making coffee, her movements stiff and nervous. When she saw Marcus in the doorway, she froze. "Sir, I didn't know you were awake." Marcus closed the kitchen door behind him and spoke softly. "Rosa, I need you to tell me the truth about what happened yesterday." Rosa's hands started trembling. She set down the coffee pot. "Sir, I can't. She'll destroy me. She said she'd have me deported. She said she'd make sure I never work again." "Rosa." Marcus stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "That's my son. If something is happening to him, I need to know. Please." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Her shoulders began to shake. "I'm so sorry, sir. I should have told you sooner, but I was so scared." "Told me what?" Rosa took a shaky breath. "Miss Vanessa, she's not who you think she is. When you're not home, she changes. She becomes someone else entirely." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean? She yells at Nathan. All the time. When he cries, she screams at him to shut up. She calls him horrible names. She says he ruined her body. She says he trapped her. She says she wishes he'd never been born." Marcus gripped the counter to steady himself. "There's more?" Rosa continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Sometimes she refuses to feed him. She says he needs to learn to stop being so needy. I have to sneak food to him when she's not looking." "How long has this been going on?" "Months, sir, since he was 3 months old. It started small, but it's been getting worse. Much worse." "And yesterday, what happened yesterday?" Rosa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Nathan wouldn't stop crying. He was hungry. He hadn't eaten in hours because she told me not to feed him. But he just kept crying and she snapped." Rosa's voice cracked. "She ran to the kitchen and grabbed that skillet. She said she was going to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. I tried to stop her, sir. I swear to God I tried. But she was so fast. And the look in her eyes..." Rosa shuddered. "I've never seen anything like it. She was going to do it. If you hadn't come home when you did..." Rosa couldn't finish. She broke down sobbing, covering her face with her hands. Marcus stood frozen, his mind reeling. His son, his baby boy, being starved, being screamed at, being threatened with violence for months, and Marcus had been too busy building his empire to see it. The guilt hit him like a physical blow. "Rosa," his voice was rough, "I need you to pack a bag and go stay with your sister today. I'll make sure you're paid. I'll make sure you're safe, but I need you out of this house until I figure out what to do." Rosa looked up, relief flooding her tear-streaked face. "Thank you, sir. Thank you. One more thing. Don't tell anyone about this conversation. Not anyone. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir, I understand." Marcus watched her hurry out of the kitchen. Then he pulled out his phone and made the first of 3 calls that would change everything. Diana Chen answered on the second ring. "Marcus, I saw what happened at the opening yesterday. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not." "Diana, I need you to do something for me. Quietly." "What's going on?" "I think Vanessa is planning something bad. I need you to start protecting my assets immediately. Any joint accounts she has access to, freeze them. Any sensitive documents, move them to secure locations. And don't tell anyone what you're doing." There was a long pause. "Marcus, these are serious steps. Are you sure?" "Diana, yesterday I came home and found her standing over my son's crib with a cast iron skillet raised above her head. The maid was begging her not to hurt him." "Oh my God. I'm sure. I'll start immediately. What else do you need?" "I need you to find me a family law attorney, the best one in California, someone who handles emergency custody situations." "I know exactly who to call. I'll have a name for you within the hour." Marcus hung up and made his second call. James Mitchell, his head of security, picked up immediately. "Mr. Thompson, what can I do for you?" "James, I need cameras installed in my house. Hidden cameras in every room. The nursery, the living room, the kitchen, the hallways, everywhere." "Sir? What's happening?" "I need to see what goes on when I'm not home. Can you do it without anyone knowing?" "I can have my team there tonight after everyone's asleep. But Marcus, is everything okay?" "No, it's not. That's why I need those cameras." "Understood. We'll be there at 2 a.m. Marcus hung up and made his third call. The private investigator answered with a gruff voice. "Derek Williams." "Mr. Williams, this is Marcus Thompson. I was referred to you by a mutual friend. I need your services." "What kind of services?" "I need you to investigate someone. Her name is Vanessa Cole. She's my fiancée. I need to know everything about her real background, her finances, her connections, who she talks to, where she goes, what she's hiding." "That's a deep dive. It won't be cheap." "Money isn't an issue." "When do you need it?" "Yesterday." Derek was silent for a moment. "Give me 3 days. I'll have something for you." Marcus hung up and stared at his phone. 3 days. 3 days of pretending everything was normal. 3 days of living with a woman who might hurt his son. 3 days of smiling and kissing and acting like his world wasn't crumbling around him. He could do this. He had to do this. For Nathan. That evening, Marcus came home at his usual time. Vanessa was in the living room, curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when he walked in and smiled that beautiful smile. "There you are. Long day." Marcus forced himself to smile back. "Just catching up on some work, trying to recover from yesterday's excitement." Vanessa set her phone down and walked over to him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I'm sorry about yesterday," she said softly. "I don't know what came over me. I think the wedding stress is getting to me." She pressed her lips to his. Marcus kissed her back, fighting the urge to recoil. "It's okay," he said. "We all have bad days." "You're too good to me." She smiled and stepped back. "Dinner's almost ready. Patricia's been wonderful with Nathan today." Patricia, the new nanny Marcus had hired that morning. A solid woman in her 50s with 20 years of experience and references that checked out 6 different ways. Someone who would protect Nathan when Marcus couldn't. "That's great," Marcus said. "I'm going to go check on him." He went upstairs to the nursery. Nathan was awake in his crib, babbling happily. When he saw Marcus, his face lit up with a toothless grin that melted Marcus's heart. "Hey, little man." Marcus picked him up and held him close. "Daddy's here." Nathan grabbed Marcus's finger and squeezed. Patricia appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Thompson, can I get you anything?" Marcus looked at her carefully. "Patricia, how was Vanessa with Nathan today?" Patricia hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. "She didn't spend much time with him, sir. She said she had a headache and stayed in her room." "Did she seem normal to you?" "Her behavior." Another hesitation. "I've only been here 1 day, sir. I don't really know what's normal for her." Marcus nodded slowly. "If anything happens, anything at all that concerns you, I want you to call me immediately, day or night. Do you understand?" Patricia met his eyes. Something passed between them, an understanding. "I understand, sir." Marcus put Nathan back in the crib and went downstairs. As he passed the living room, he heard Vanessa on her phone. She was speaking softly, but Marcus caught a few words. "Can't wait much longer. He's already suspicious." She looked up, saw Marcus, and immediately ended the call. "Who was that?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice casual. "Just my sister. Wedding stuff." "Everything okay?" "Fine," she smiled. "Dinner's ready." They sat down to eat like a normal family. Vanessa chatted about wedding plans. Marcus nodded and smiled and said all the right things. But inside his mind was racing. She was talking to someone about him, about his suspicions. Whatever she was planning, it was happening soon. And Marcus was running out of time. The cameras were installed at 2 a.m. James and his team moved like ghosts through the house, placing tiny devices in every room. Cameras so small they looked like smoke detectors. Microphones hidden in decorative fixtures. By dawn, Marcus had a live feed on his phone. He drove to work like normal, sat in his office like normal. But instead of reviewing contracts, he watched the footage from his house. For the first few hours, nothing unusual happened. Vanessa moved through the house like she always did, made coffee, checked her phone, talked briefly with Patricia. Then around noon, Vanessa went upstairs to the nursery. Marcus sat forward, his heart pounding. She stood over Nathan's crib, looking down at him. Her face was blank, empty, like she was looking at an object instead of a baby. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. Marcus turned up the volume. "It's me," Vanessa said, her voice cold and businesslike. "We need to talk." A male voice responded, muffled but audible. "What's wrong?" "He's getting suspicious. The way he looked at me yesterday after the nursery thing. He knows something's off." "So what do? "We move up the timeline. We take the boy this week." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "This week?" The male voice sounded uncertain. "That's too fast. We're not ready." "I don't care if we're ready. If we wait any longer, he's going to figure it out, and then everything falls apart." "Vanessa, listen to me." Her voice dropped to a hiss. "We take Nathan. We make the ransom demand. He pays, and then we disappear. That's the plan. That's always been the plan. Are you in or not?" A long pause. "I'm in." "Good. I'll text you the details tonight. Be ready to move." She hung up. Marcus sat frozen at his desk, unable to move, unable to breathe. They were going to kidnap his son. Vanessa and whoever she was working with were going to take Nathan and hold him for ransom. This week. Marcus's hands started shaking. His vision blurred at the edges. He wanted to run home right now, grab Nathan, disappear. But he forced himself to think clearly. This was evidence. This was what he needed. But he needed more. He needed to know who she was working with. He needed to catch them in the act. He saved the footage, made multiple copies, sent one to Diana Chen, one to James Mitchell, one to a contact he had at the FBI. Then he picked up his phone and called Derek Williams. "Derek, I need that information now. Whatever you have, send it immediately." "I was just about to call you, Mr. Thompson." Derek's voice was grim. "You're going to want to see this in person." They met at a coffee shop in Santa Monica. Derek slid a thick folder across the table. His face was serious. "Before you open that, I need to warn you. What's in there is going to be hard to read." Marcus opened the folder. The first page was a bank statement, a joint account Marcus didn't know existed. Over the past 6 months, Vanessa had withdrawn nearly $200,000 and transferred it to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Marcus turned the page. Phone records, dozens of calls to a single number, sometimes 3 or 4 a day, sometimes late at night when Marcus was asleep. "Who is this?" Marcus pointed at the number. "His name is Victor Reyes." Derek pulled out photographs. Vanessa sitting across from a man at a restaurant in Santa Monica. The same man, tall, with a shaved head and expensive clothes. Vanessa and Victor getting into a car together outside a hotel in West Hollywood. Vanessa and Victor embracing in a parking garage. "Who is he?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. Derek slid another document across the table. "Victor Reyes, 42 years old, born in Miami, moved to Los Angeles 8 years ago, arrested 3 years ago for running an extortion scheme targeting wealthy businessmen in Orange County. The case was dropped because key witnesses suddenly refused to testify. Word is he threatened their families. Marcus stared at the photograph. Victor's face, cold eyes, confident smile. He's connected to some very dangerous people, Derek continued. Drug money, organized crime, the kind of people you don't want to mess with. Marcus felt sick. There's more, Derek said. He pulled out another folder, this one thicker than the first. Vanessa Cole isn't her real name. She was born Vanessa Martinez in Phoenix, Arizona, and this isn't the first time she's done something like this. Marcus's hands went cold. What do you mean? Derek opened the folder. 15 years ago, Vanessa married a real estate developer named Robert Hartley. They met at a charity event. She was working as an assistant. He was worth about $4 million. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. That's exactly how they'd met. 3 months after the wedding, Robert died in a car accident. Single vehicle. Drove off a cliff on the Pacific Coast Highway. Vanessa inherited everything. Derek turned the page. 5 years later, she was engaged to a tech entrepreneur in San Francisco, Thomas Wheeler, worth about $8 million. A month before the wedding, Thomas's business partner discovered she'd been embezzling money from the company. Thomas confronted her about it. What happened? 2 days later, Thomas was found dead in his apartment, officially ruled a suicide. But his family never believed it. They hired their own investigators, but nothing could be proven. Derek closed the folder and looked Marcus directly in the eyes. Mr. Thompson, the woman you're engaged to, has been doing this for over a decade. She targets wealthy men, gains their trust, marries them or gets close to marrying them. And then she takes everything, one way or another. Marcus sat in silence, his mind reeling. Robert Hartley, dead. Thomas Wheeler, dead. And now Marcus Thompson. She's going to kill me, he said quietly. That's my assessment, yes. Whether it's before or after the kidnapping, I don't know. But you're not safe, and neither is your son. Marcus closed the folder. Everything he thought he knew about his life was a lie. The woman he'd loved, the woman he'd trusted, the woman he'd made a child with, she was a predator, a killer. And she'd had him in her sights from the very beginning. What do I do? Marcus asked. Derek leaned forward. You fight back, you gather evidence, you protect your son, and when they make their move, you make sure they go down, permanently. Marcus drove home that evening with the folder sitting on the passenger seat. His mind was clear, cold, focused. He knew what Vanessa was now. He knew what she was planning, and he knew he had one chance to stop her. When he walked through the front door, Vanessa was waiting. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. That was part of the trap. There you are. She walked toward him, wrapped her arms around his neck. I missed you. Marcus forced himself to hug her back. Missed you too. Rough day. Nothing I can't handle. She pulled back and looked at him, her head tilted slightly. You seem tense. Is something wrong? For a split second, Marcus wanted to confront her, throw the folder in her face, demand to know how many men she'd killed. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he had everything in place. Just tired, he said. Long week. Why don't you go check on Nathan? I'll pour you a drink. Marcus went upstairs. Nathan was in his crib, awake and happy. When he saw his father, he reached up with both hands, wanting to be held. Marcus picked him up and held him tight. I know what she is now, he whispered into his son's ear. And I'm going to stop her. I promise you, whatever it takes. Nathan gurgled and grabbed Marcus's nose. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. This was what he was fighting for. This innocent little life. This pure, precious soul who depended on him for protection. He would not fail. He heard Vanessa coming up the stairs. Marcus put Nathan back in the crib and turned around just as she appeared in the doorway, holding 2 glasses of wine. Here you go. She handed him a glass. To surviving another week. Marcus took the glass but didn't drink. To surviving, he said. Vanessa smiled and sipped her wine, but Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes. something calculating, something cold. She knows he thought. She knows that I know. They stood there in the nursery, two predators circling each other, both pretending to be something they weren't. The game had begun, and only one of them was going to survive. Later that night, after Vanessa had fallen asleep, Marcus sat in the nursery beside Nathan's crib. His phone buzzed. A text from James Mitchell. "Everything in place. FBI contact confirmed. Ready to move on your signal." Marcus typed back, "Stand by. It's happening soon." He put the phone away and looked at his sleeping son. Somewhere in this house, his fiancée was planning to kidnap this child, to hold him for ransom, to possibly kill Marcus in the process. But she'd made one fatal mistake. She'd underestimated him. She thought he was too busy, too distracted, too trusting to see what was happening right under his nose. She was wrong. Marcus had built a pharmaceutical empire from nothing. He'd outmaneuvered competitors, survived hostile takeovers, navigated the cutthroat world of corporate America. Vanessa Cole was dangerous, but she'd never faced anyone like Marcus Thompson. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Derek Williams. "Found more. Victor has a sister. She works for someone close to you. Very close. Call me in the morning." Marcus read the message twice. Victor's sister. Someone close to him. His stomach dropped. How deep did this go? How many people around him were part of this conspiracy? He looked at Nathan sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger surrounding him. "Don't worry, little man," Marcus whispered. "Daddy's going to figure this out, and when I do, everyone who tried to hurt you is going to pay." Outside the window, the Los Angeles skyline glittered in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Victor Reyes was planning his next move. Somewhere in this house, Vanessa was dreaming of ransom money and tropical beaches. And somewhere in his chest, Marcus felt something new taking root. Not fear, not anger. Something colder, something harder. The determination of a father who would burn the world down to protect his child. Marcus called Derek Williams at 6 a.m. the next morning. He hadn't slept. He'd spent the entire night in the nursery, watching Nathan breathe, thinking about what Derek had said. "Victor's sister works for someone close to you. Very close." Derek answered on the first ring. "I figured you'd call early." "Who is she?" Marcus demanded. "Victor's sister. Who is she?" "Her name is Kelly Morrison. She uses her mother's maiden name professionally." Marcus felt the room spin. Kelly Morrison, his executive assistant for the past 4 years, the woman who managed his calendar, who had access to his emails, who knew every meeting, every contract, every detail of his business and personal life. "You're sure?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sure. I ran facial recognition, cross-referenced birth records, checked everything twice. Kelly Morrison is Victor Reyes's younger sister. They grew up together in Miami before she moved to LA 8 years ago, right around the same time he did." Marcus gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. Kelly had been feeding them information this entire time. His schedule, his travel plans, his net worth, everything Vanessa and Victor needed to plan their attack. "There's more," Derek said. "I pulled Kelly's phone records. She's been in constant contact with both Vanessa and Victor, multiple calls a day. Sometimes at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They've been planning this for months, Marcus, maybe longer." "The humiliation at the factory opening," Marcus said slowly. "That wasn't Vanessa's idea, was it?" "No. Based on the text messages I recovered, Kelly suggested it. She told Vanessa it would destabilize you emotionally, make you doubt yourself, make you easier to manipulate." Marcus closed his eyes. 4 years. Kelly had worked for him for 4 years. He'd trusted her completely. He'd given her a key to his house. He'd let her hold Nathan when he was born. And the whole time she'd been plotting to destroy him. "Marcus, you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "What do you want to do?" Marcus opened his eyes. "I want to take them all down. Every single one of them." At 8:30 a.m., Marcus walked into Thompson Pharmaceuticals like nothing was wrong. He smiled at the receptionist. He nodded at employees in the hallway. He stopped to chat with a senior manager about quarterly projections. And then he walked into his office where Kelly Morrison was already waiting with his morning coffee. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson." She smiled, that professional smile she always wore. "I have your schedule for today. You've got a conference call at 9 with the Singapore distributors, lunch with the marketing team at noon, and—" "Kelly." She stopped mid-sentence. "Yes, sir." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. The neat blonde hair, the pressed suit, the tablet in her hands with his entire life organized in digital folders. How had he missed it? How had he been so blind? "Cancel everything today. I need to work on something personal." Kelly's eyebrow twitched, just slightly. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just need some quiet time to think." "Should I hold your calls?" "All of them. I don't want to be disturbed." Kelly nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "Mr. Thompson, is there anything I should know about, anything I can help with?" Marcus forced himself to smile. "No, Kelly. Everything's under control." She held his gaze for just a moment too long. Then she smiled back. "I'm always here if you need me, sir." She closed the door behind her. Marcus waited 60 seconds. Then he pulled out his phone and called James Mitchell. "I need surveillance on Kelly Morrison, my executive assistant, starting now." "Your assistant? What's going on?" "She's Victor Reyes' sister. She's been feeding them information for years." James was silent for a moment. "Jesus Christ. I need to know everyone she talks to, everywhere she goes, every call, every text, every email. Can you do that?" "I'll have a team on her within the hour." Marcus hung up and pulled out his laptop. He needed to know exactly what Kelly had access to, what she'd seen, what she'd shared. And then he needed to use that against her. At 11:47 a.m., Marcus received an encrypted message from James. "Kelly just left the building. She's heading west on Wilshire. My team is following." Marcus watched the updates roll in. 11:52 a.m., Kelly parked at a coffee shop in Beverly Hills. 11:58 a.m., a man entered the coffee shop, tall shaved head, confirmed Victor Reyes. 12:03 p.m., they're sitting together in the back corner. Conversation appears intense. 12:07 p.m., Kelly is showing him something on her phone. Looks like photos or documents. 12:15 p.m., Victor just made a phone call. Short. He looks agitated. 12:22 p.m., they're leaving together, heading to Victor's car. 12:31 p.m., they've arrived at a house in West Hollywood, address 847 Sunset Place. 12:45 p.m., a third person has entered the house, female, blonde hair, identified as Vanessa Cole. Marcus stared at the message, all three of them, together, in one location. His phone rang. James. "Are you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it." "They're planning something, Marcus. The body language is all wrong. They're moving fast like they're on a deadline. Can you get audio? Not without a warrant, and we can't go to the police yet, not until we have them dead to rights." Marcus thought for a moment. "What about the cameras in my house? Is Vanessa still being recorded?" "Every minute of every day." "Good, because I have an idea." At 2:15 p.m., Marcus called Vanessa. She answered on the third ring. "Hey, baby, is everything okay?" "Everything's great. I just wanted to let you know I'm going to be late tonight. I have a dinner meeting with some investors." "Oh." A pause. "How late?" "Probably around 10, maybe later. Don't wait up for me." "Okay." Another pause. "Marcus, are you sure everything's all right? You've been acting strange lately." "I'm fine. Just stressed about work. I'll make it up to you this weekend. Maybe we can go away somewhere, just the three of us." "That sounds wonderful." Her voice softened. "I love you." The words made Marcus's stomach turn. "I love you too." He hung up and looked at James, who was standing in his office. "She'll call Victor the second I hang up. She'll tell him I'm going to be out of the house until 10. James nodded. "You think they'll make their move tonight?" "They're desperate. I've been acting suspicious. They know I'm onto something. If they think they have a clear window, they'll take it. And you'll be there waiting for them." "Not me, the FBI. Agent Sarah Morales has been briefed. She's assembling a tactical team as we speak." James raised an eyebrow. "You've been busy." "I've been fighting for my son's life. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish when that's on the line." At 4:30 p.m., Marcus left the office early. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to an FBI field office in Westwood. Agent Sarah Morales was waiting for him in a conference room. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She'd reviewed the camera footage, the phone records, the financial documents, everything Derek and James had gathered. "Mr. Thompson, I want you to know that we take this very seriously. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping is a federal crime. If they make an attempt tonight, we will be ready." "What's the plan?" Agent Morales spread a blueprint of Marcus's house on the table. "We'll have a team positioned around the perimeter, hidden. They won't see us until it's too late. Your nanny Patricia has been briefed. She'll keep Nathan in the nursery and signal us if anyone enters the house." "What about me? Where do you want me?" "Honestly, I'd prefer if you stayed here safe and out of the way." Marcus shook his head. "With all due respect, Agent Morales, that's my son in there. I'm not hiding while someone tries to kidnap him." She studied him for a moment. "I figured you'd say that. Fine. But you stay in the car until we give the all-clear." "Understood." "Understood." Agent Morales looked at the blueprint again. "There's one more thing. The woman Vanessa. She's lived with you for over a year. She knows your routines, your habits, the layout of your house. If anything feels off to her, she'll abort." "I know." "You need to act completely normal. When you come home tonight, you need to be the loving fiancé who doesn't suspect a thing. Can you do that?" Marcus thought about Vanessa standing over Nathan's crib with a skillet in her hand. "I can do whatever it takes to protect my son." At 6:45 p.m., Marcus received a text from James. "Activity at Victor's house. They're loading equipment into a van. Looks like rope bags, some kind of electronic equipment. They're getting ready." Marcus showed the message to Agent Morales. Her jaw tightened. "It's happening tonight. Get your team in position." At 7:30 p.m., Marcus drove toward his house in Bel Air. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady on the wheel. An FBI tactical van followed at a safe distance. 2 unmarked cars were already parked on his street agents inside. His phone rang. Vanessa. "Hey, baby, are you still at dinner?" "Just finished. I'm heading home now. Should be there in about 20 minutes. "Oh." Her voice faltered slightly. "You're coming home early." "The meeting wrapped up faster than I expected. Is that okay?" A long pause. "Of course. I'll see you soon." She hung up. Marcus immediately called Agent Morales. "She knows something's wrong. Her voice changed when I said I was coming home early." "Doesn't matter. We're already in position. If they're coming, they're coming. And we'll be ready." Marcus pulled onto his street. Everything looked normal. His house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, lights glowing warmly in the windows. He couldn't see the FBI agents, but he knew they were there, watching, waiting. He parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, taking deep breaths. This was it. He got out of the car and walked toward the front door. Vanessa opened it before he could reach for the handle. "You're home early." She was smiling, but her eyes were scanning the street behind him. "How was the meeting?" "Good. Productive." Marcus stepped inside and kissed her cheek. "How was your day?" "Quiet. Nathan was fussy for a while, but Patricia got him down." "Is he asleep?" "Out cold." Marcus nodded and walked toward the stairs. "I'm going to check on him." "Marcus, wait." He stopped. Vanessa was standing in the middle of the living room, her arms crossed over her chest. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About us. About what's been happening lately. You've been distant, distracted. I feel like you're pulling away from me." Marcus turned to face her. "I've had a lot on my mind." "Like what?" He looked at her. The woman he'd loved. The woman he'd trusted. The woman who was planning to kidnap his son. "Like the factory opening. What happened there?" And Vanessa's expression shifted slightly. "I told you I was stressed. I didn't mean those things." "Didn't you?" "Of course not. I love you, Marcus. I love our family. I would never do anything to hurt what we have." The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that Marcus almost believed her. Almost. "I believe you," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I've been distant. Let me go check on Nathan and then we can talk properly." He turned and headed up the stairs. Behind him, he heard Vanessa pull out her phone. At 8:15 p.m., Marcus sat in Nathan's nursery watching his son sleep. His phone buzzed. A message from Agent Morales. Black van approaching your street. 2 occupants. Confirmed Victor Reyes driving. Marcus's heart rate spiked. They were here. Another message. Van is parking 3 houses down. Occupants are exiting. They're moving toward your property on foot. Marcus stood up slowly. He could hear Vanessa moving around downstairs, opening doors, turning off lights. She was preparing. His phone buzzed again. 3rd person spotted, coming from the back of the property, female, identified as Kelly Morrison. Kelly. Of course. She had a key to the house. Marcus heard the back door open, then close. Footsteps in the kitchen. Whispered voices. He looked down at Nathan, still sleeping peacefully. Daddy's got you, he whispered. Nobody's going to touch you. He heard more footsteps, coming up the stairs now. Multiple people. The nursery door opened. Vanessa stood in the doorway. Behind her was Victor Reyes, dressed all in black, holding a roll of duct tape, and behind him was Kelly Morrison carrying a large duffel bag. Marcus didn't move. What's going on, Vanessa? Vanessa smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile she usually wore. This smile was cold, triumphant. You know exactly what's going on, Marcus. You've known for days. We could see it in your face. So why do this? Why now? Because you're worth $40 million, and we've been planning this for 2 years. We're not walking away empty-handed. Victor stepped forward. Here's how this works. You're going to transfer the money to an account we specify, and in exchange, you get your son back. Simple. And if I refuse? Victor's smile widened. Then things get complicated. Kelly moved toward the crib. Don't touch him. Marcus's voice was ice. Kelly stopped. You're not in a position to give orders, she said. You're alone. No security, no weapons, just you and your precious baby. Am I alone? Marcus pulled out his phone and pressed a single button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the room exploded with light and sound. Flashbang grenades detonated in the hallway. The front door crashed inward. FBI agents in tactical gear swarmed through the house shouting commands. Victor spun around, reaching for something in his waistband. Federal agents, don't move! 2 agents tackled him to the ground. The duct tape went flying. Kelly screamed and dropped the duffel bag. On the ground now! She fell to her knees, hands behind her head. And Vanessa just stood there, staring at Marcus with an expression he'd never seen before. Shock, rage, hatred. You set us up. No. Marcus stepped forward, his voice steady. You set yourself up the moment you raised that skillet over my son's head. Agent Morales entered the nursery, her weapon drawn. Vanessa Cole, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping and extortion. You have the right to remain silent. As they handcuffed her, Vanessa started laughing. You think this is over? You think you've won? I think you're going to prison for a very long time. You don't know anything, Marcus. You don't know what I know, what I've done, the people I work for. The people you work for are being arrested as we speak. It's over, Vanessa. Her laughter stopped. For just a moment, Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. Then the mask returned. You should have just paid the money. It would have been so much simpler. They led her out of the nursery. Marcus stood alone with Nathan, who had somehow slept through the entire raid. He reached down and picked up his son, holding him tight against his chest. It's over, he whispered. You're safe now. Daddy kept his promise. But even as he said the words, he knew Vanessa was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The interrogations began at midnight. Agent Morales called Marcus at 2 a.m. with an update. Victor broke first. He's giving us everything. Names, dates, bank accounts. He's terrified of spending the rest of his life in federal prison. What about Kelly? She's cooperating too. She's confirmed everything we suspected. They've been planning this since before you and Vanessa even met. She targeted you specifically. Marcus felt sick. How did they find me? According to Kelly. Victor identified you as a target 3 years ago. You were profiled, Marcus. Your business success, your family situation, your personality type. They determined you were vulnerable to a certain kind of approach. Then they sent Vanessa in. The charity gala, where we met. That wasn't an accident. She knew you'd be there. She'd studied you for months. She knew exactly what to say, how to act, how to make you fall in love with her. Marcus closed his eyes. Everything. Every smile, every kiss, every whispered confession of love. All of it had been a lie, a carefully constructed performance designed to destroy him. What about Vanessa? Is she talking? Agent Morales hesitated. That's actually why I'm calling. Vanessa made a statement about an hour ago. She claims there's a fourth person involved, someone we haven't identified yet, someone who's been pulling the strings from the beginning. Who? She won't say. She says she'll only give us the name in exchange for a reduced sentence. No deals. Mr. Thompson, no deals. She tried to kidnap my son. She was going to take him and disappear, maybe hurt him, maybe worse. I don't care what information she has. No deals. Agent Morales sighed. I understand how you feel, but if there's really someone else involved, then find them another way. But Vanessa Cole doesn't get a single day off her sentence. Not one. There was a long pause. Understood. We'll keep digging. Marcus hung up and looked at Nathan sleeping peacefully in his portable crib. A fourth person. Someone they hadn't identified. Who else could be involved? Who else had access to his life? The question haunted him for the rest of the night. At 9 a.m., Marcus met with Diana Chen at her law office. She had dark circles under her eyes. She'd been working through the night coordinating with the FBI and preparing emergency custody documents. I have good news and bad news, she said. The good news is that Vanessa's parental rights are being terminated. Given the circumstances, no judge in California is going to let her anywhere near Nathan. And the bad news, Diana slid a document across the table. I was reviewing the financial records this morning. The $200,000 Vanessa transferred to the Caymans. That's not all of it. Marcus looked at the document. What do you mean? There are other accounts, hidden accounts. In the Bahamas, Switzerland, Singapore. Over the past 18 months, approximately $1.2 million has been moved out of various Thompson Pharmaceuticals subsidiary accounts. 1.2 million. How is that possible? Kelly Morrison had access to most of your financial systems. She's been skimming small amounts from multiple accounts, spreading it out so it wouldn't trigger any alarms. Marcus stared at the numbers. They weren't just planning to kidnap Nathan. They were already robbing me blind. It gets worse. Diana pulled out another folder. I did some digging into Vanessa's previous relationships, the ones Derek told you about. Robert Hartley and Thomas Wheeler. Yes, Marcus, both of those men had the same financial irregularities in the months before they died. Small transfers, hidden accounts money moving offshore. You think she was doing the same thing to them? I think she's been doing this for over a decade. And I think whoever this fourth person is, they've been helping her the entire time. Marcus leaned back in his chair. So, we're not just dealing with 3 con artists. We're dealing with an entire operation. That's my assessment, yes. Marcus thought about what Vanessa had said. You don't know what I know, what I've done, the people I work for. Diana, I need you to find everything you can about Robert Hartley and Thomas Wheeler, their businesses, their employees, their associates. If there's a pattern, I want to see it. I'll have a team on it today. Marcus stood up. And Diana, whatever you find, whatever it costs, I want these people destroyed. Every single one of them. At 3:30 p.m., Marcus received a call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Thompson? The voice was male, deep, unfamiliar. Who is this? A friend, or at least someone who could be your friend. I'm not interested in new friends. That's unfortunate, because I have information you need about Vanessa, about Victor, about everything that's really going on. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. Then tell me. Not over the phone. Meet me tonight, 8 p.m., the parking garage at Santa Monica Place, level 3. Come alone." "How do I know this isn't a trap?" The man laughed softly. "You don't, but I can tell you this. Vanessa wasn't lying about the fourth person. There is someone else. Someone much more dangerous than her or Victor or Kelly. Someone who's been doing this for 20 years. And if you don't stop them, you won't be their last victim." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. A stranger calling with information about a mysterious fourth person. It could be a trap, a setup, another layer of the same conspiracy. Or it could be exactly what he needed to end this once and for all. He thought about Nathan safe at home with Patricia and James's security team. He thought about Robert Hartley dead at the bottom of a cliff. He thought about Thomas Wheeler found dead in his apartment, and he made a decision. At 8 p.m., Marcus pulled into the parking garage at Santa Monica Place. He drove slowly up to level 3, his headlights cutting through the shadows. The garage was nearly empty. Just a few scattered cars, their owners probably at dinner or shopping. He parked in the center of the level and turned off the engine. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar. The man was older than Marcus expected. Maybe 60, with silver hair and an expensive suit. He walked with the confidence of someone who was used to being in control. Marcus stepped out of his car. "You came alone," the man observed. "Good. You said you have information." "I do." The man stopped about 10 feet away. "But first a question. Do you know why Vanessa targeted you specifically?" "My money, my business." "That's part of it, but not all of it." "Then what?" The man smiled. "Your father." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. "My father died when I was 12 years old." "I know. Car accident. Very tragic." The man's smile widened. "Except it wasn't an accident, was it?" Marcus couldn't breathe. "What are you talking about?" "Your father was rich, Mr. Thompson. He built a pharmaceutical company just like you. And 22 years ago, someone decided to take everything he had, the company, the money, his life." "That's impossible. My father's death was investigated. It was an accident." "It was made to look like an accident. Just like Robert Hartley's death. Just like Thomas Wheeler's death. Just like yours was supposed to look." Marcus felt his entire world crumbling. "Who are you?" The man reached into his jacket. Marcus tensed, ready to run, but the man only pulled out a business card. "My name is William Cross. I'm a private investigator. I've been tracking these people for 18 years, ever since they killed my son." He held out the card. Marcus took it with trembling hands. "Your son. Thomas Wheeler was my son. He didn't use my name because we had a falling out years ago. But when he died, I knew it wasn't suicide. I've spent every day since then trying to prove it." "And have you?" William Cross nodded slowly. "I know who's behind all of it. Vanessa, Victor, Kelly. They're just foot soldiers. The real monster is someone else entirely. Someone who's been running this operation for over 2 decades. Someone who's destroyed dozens of families." "Who?" William Cross looked Marcus directly in the eyes. "Her name is Margaret Ashford. She was your father's business partner, and she's been stealing from your family since before you were born." Marcus stood frozen in that parking garage, the business card trembling in his hand. Margaret Ashford. The name echoed through his memory like a ghost. He hadn't heard it in over 20 years, but now suddenly he could see her face. The woman who used to visit their house when he was a child. The woman who brought him candy and called him little man. The woman who stood beside his mother at his father's funeral, crying into a silk handkerchief. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered. "Margaret was my father's best friend. She helped my mother after he died. She helped us keep the company." William Cross shook his head slowly. "She didn't help you keep the company. She helped herself to it, piece by piece, year by year." "Why do you think Thompson Pharmaceuticals struggled so much in the years after your father's death? Why do you think your mother had to sell off assets just to keep the lights on?" "We had financial difficulties, the economy. The economy had nothing to do with it. Margaret was draining your father's company from the inside. She'd been doing it for years before he died. When he finally discovered what she was doing, she had him killed." Marcus felt his legs go weak. "You're lying." "I wish I was." William stepped closer. "Your father confronted Margaret 3 days before his accident. He told her he was going to the authorities. He was going to expose everything. And 3 days later, his car went off a cliff on Mulholland Drive." Sound familiar? Robert Hartley, Pacific Coast Highway, Thomas Wheeler, suicide. Marcus's father, Mulholland Drive. The same pattern, over and over again. "How do you know all this?" Marcus demanded. "How do you know any of this is true?" William reached into his jacket again and pulled out a worn envelope. "Because your father wrote to me before he died. We were friends, Marcus, college roommates. He sent me this letter the day before his accident asking me to look after your family if anything happened to him." Marcus took the envelope with shaking hands. The handwriting on the front was his father's. He'd recognize it anywhere. "I failed him," William said quietly. "I didn't take the letter seriously. I thought he was being paranoid. By the time I realized the truth, it was too late. Your mother had already sold most of the company to Margaret. You were just a teenager. There was nothing I could do." Marcus opened the envelope and pulled out the letter inside. His father's words stared back at him, written in blue ink on yellow legal paper. "William, if you're reading this, it means Margaret has made her move. I've discovered she's been embezzling from the company for years. Millions of dollars funneled to offshore accounts. I confronted her yesterday, and the look in her eyes terrified me. I'm going to the FBI tomorrow. But if something happens to me before then, please look after my wife and son. And please, whatever you do, don't let Margaret near them. She's not who she pretends to be. She's a monster wearing a human mask. Your friend Richard." Marcus read the letter 3 times. His father had known. He'd tried to stop her, and she'd killed him for it. "Where is Margaret now?" Marcus's voice was cold, hard. "She lives in Pasadena. A mansion on Orange Grove Boulevard. She's retired now, supposedly, but she still runs the operation from behind the scenes. Vanessa Victor Kelly, they all report to her." "How many people has she done this to?" "That I know of. At least 15. Wealthy men, mostly. Businessmen, entrepreneurs, heirs to family fortunes. She identifies targets, sends in women like Vanessa to gain their trust, and then she takes everything. Sometimes they survive. Most of the time, they don't." Marcus looked at the letter again. His father's last words. A warning from beyond the grave. "I want to meet her." William's eyes widened. "That's incredibly dangerous. If she knows you're on to her, she tried to kidnap my son. She killed my father. I'm not hiding from her." "Marcus, listen to me. I've been tracking this woman for 18 years. She's untouchable. She has connections everywhere. Police, judges, politicians. You can't just walk up to her and... I'm not going to walk up to her." Marcus folded the letter and put it in his pocket. "I'm going to destroy her, the same way she destroyed my family." At 10:15 p.m., Marcus called Agent Morales. "I have new information about the 4th person." "We're listening." "Her name is Margaret Ashford. She was my father's business partner 22 years ago. She's been running this operation for decades." There was a long pause on the other end. "Marcus, are you sure about this? Margaret Ashford is... She's a prominent figure. Philanthropist, donor to multiple political campaigns, board member of several major corporations. She's also a murderer. I have evidence. A letter from my father written the day before he was killed." Another pause. "Where did you get this letter?" "From a private investigator named William Cross. His son was Thomas Wheeler, one of Margaret's previous victims." "I know that name. We interviewed him years ago when we first started looking into the Wheeler case. He seemed obsessed." "He's not obsessed. He's been right all along, and now I'm giving you everything you need to take her down." Agent Morales sighed. "Marcus, I want to help you, but Margaret Ashford has lawyers that make sharks look friendly. If we move against her without airtight evidence, she'll bury us in lawsuits and walk away clean." "Then we get airtight evidence." "How?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Vanessa. She worked for Margaret directly. She knows where the bodies are buried. Vanessa isn't talking. She's been silent since the arrest." "Then make her talk. Offer her whatever she wants." "You said no deals." "That was before I knew about Margaret. If Vanessa can give us enough to put that woman in prison for the rest of her life, then give her whatever deal she wants." Agent Morales was quiet for a long moment. "I'll see what I can do." At 7:30 a.m. the next morning, Marcus received a call from Agent Morales. Vanessa agreed to talk, but she has conditions. What conditions? She wants full immunity, no prison time, witness protection after she testifies. Marcus felt rage surge through him. "She tried to kidnap my son." "I know, and if it were up to me, she'd rot in prison. But she says she has evidence that will put Margaret away forever. Financial records recordings, even video footage. Things that would be impossible to get any other way." Marcus closed his eyes. Vanessa Cole. The woman who had stood over Nathan's crib with a skillet. The woman who had planned to kidnap his baby and disappear. She was going to walk free. What about Victor and Kelly? No immunity for them. They'll both serve significant prison time. It wasn't enough. It wasn't nearly enough. But if it meant stopping Margaret Ashford... Fine. Make the deal. There's one more thing. Vanessa wants to talk to you personally before she signs anything. Why? She didn't say. But she was very specific. No conversation with you, no deal. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. When? Today, 2 p.m., Federal Detention Center. At 1:45 p.m., Marcus walked into the Federal Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles. Agent Morales met him at the entrance. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "You don't have to see her." "Yes, I do." They walked through security checkpoints, down long gray corridors, past locked doors and armed guards. Finally, they reached a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs. Vanessa was already inside, wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hands cuffed in front of her. She looked smaller than Marcus remembered. Paler. The confident woman who had humiliated him at the factory opening was gone. In her place was someone who looked tired and afraid. Marcus sat down across from her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You look terrible," Vanessa finally said. "You tried to kidnap my son." "I know." She looked down at her cuffed hands. "I know what I did. I'm not asking for forgiveness." "Good, because you're not getting it." Vanessa nodded slowly. "I wanted to explain something to you. Before I give them everything, I wanted you to understand why." "I don't care why." "You should." "Because it started with your father." Marcus went still. "What do you mean?" Vanessa looked up, meeting his eyes. "Margaret Ashford recruited me 12 years ago. I was 22, desperate, drowning in debt. She offered me a way out. All I had to do was make rich men fall in love with me. And then steal from them. And then help Margaret steal from them. I was just the distraction. The pretty face. Margaret handled everything else." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the first target she ever gave me was supposed to be you." Marcus felt the room spin. "What?" 12 years ago, Marcus. You were 26, just taking over Thompson Pharmaceuticals after your mother passed. You were young, single, wealthy. The perfect target. But we didn't meet until 18 months ago. Because something went wrong. Margaret's original plan fell apart. I got arrested for something unrelated, spent 2 years in prison. By the time I got out, you'd changed. You were more careful, more suspicious. So Margaret waited. She sent me after other targets. Robert Hartley, Thomas Wheeler, others. And then you let your guard down. You started going to charity events. You seemed lonely. Margaret decided it was time to try again. Marcus sat back in his chair, his mind racing. You're saying Margaret has been targeting me since I was 26 years old. I'm saying Margaret has been targeting your family since before you were born. Your father stole something from her, something important, and she's been taking revenge ever since. Stole something my father would never. Not that kind of stealing. Vanessa leaned forward. Your father built Thompson Pharmaceuticals from scratch, but Margaret was there from the beginning. She believed she deserved half the company. When your father refused to give it to her, she decided to take it anyway. That's what this is about, a business dispute from 30 years ago. It's about more than that. It's about pride. It's about control. Margaret Ashford doesn't like being told no, And when your father told her no, she decided to destroy everything he'd ever built, including you. Marcus stared at her. How do I know you're not lying? How do I know this isn't just another manipulation? Vanessa reached into the pocket of her jumpsuit and pulled out a small USB drive. This is everything. Financial records going back 20 years. Recordings of conversations between me and Margaret. Video footage of her giving orders. Names of every target, every accomplice, every politician she's bribed. She slid the drive across the table. I kept it as insurance, in case Margaret ever decided I was a liability. Marcus looked at the drive but didn't touch it. Why give this to me? Why not just hand it to the FBI? Because I want you to see it first. I want you to know exactly what she did to your family, and then I want you to use it to destroy her. Why do you care? Vanessa was silent for a long moment. Because of Nathan. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Don't you dare say his name. I know I have no right. Tears welled in Vanessa's eyes. But standing over that crib with that skillet in my hand, something broke inside me. I looked down at him, at this innocent little baby, and I couldn't do it. I wanted to. Margaret was counting on me, but I couldn't hurt him. You were going to kidnap him. To scare you, to get money, not to hurt him, never to hurt him. The tears were flowing freely now. I've done terrible things, Marcus, unforgivable things, but I'm not a monster. I'm not Margaret. Marcus sat in silence, watching the woman who had almost destroyed his life cry. He felt nothing. Take the drive, Vanessa whispered. Destroy Margaret. And please, please keep Nathan safe. Because even from prison she'll come for him. She doesn't stop. She never stops. Marcus picked up the USB drive and stood. One last question. Vanessa looked up. That day in the nursery, when I came home and found you with the skillet, were you really going to do it? Vanessa held his gaze. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And that's what terrifies me more than anything. Marcus walked out without another word. At 4:30 p.m., Marcus sat in Diana Chen's office watching the contents of the USB drive play on her computer screen. The evidence was devastating. Bank records showing millions of dollars flowing from Thompson Pharmaceuticals to offshore accounts controlled by Margaret Ashford. Recordings of phone conversations where Margaret discussed target strategies and payments. Video footage of Margaret meeting with Vanessa Victor and Kelly, giving them detailed instructions on how to approach Marcus. And most damning of all, a recording from 22 years ago. Margaret's voice younger but unmistakable, speaking to someone on the phone. It's done. Richard's car went off Mulholland this morning. The police are calling it an accident. His wife is devastated. She'll sell me her shares within 6 months. Everything is going according to plan. Diana paused the recording. Marcus, this is enough to put her away for life. Multiple counts of murder, conspiracy, fraud, extortion. She'll never see the outside of a prison cell. Marcus stared at the screen. His father's death discussed like a business transaction. It's done. Like ordering a cup of coffee. I want to be there when they arrest her. That's not advisable. She could be dangerous. I don't care. I want to look her in the eyes. I want her to know who brought her down. Diana studied him for a long moment. All right, I'll talk to Agent Morales. But Marcus, be careful. Women like Margaret Ashford don't go quietly. At 6:00 a.m. the following morning, a convoy of FBI vehicles rolled up to Margaret Ashford's mansion on Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena. Marcus sat in an unmarked car with Agent Morales, watching through the windshield as tactical teams surrounded the property. You ready for this? Morales asked. I've been ready for this my entire life. I just didn't know it. The lead agent approached the front door and knocked. FBI, open up. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door opened, and Margaret Ashford stepped out. She was 73 years old, but she looked younger. Silver hair perfectly styled, designer clothes impeccably tailored. She stood with the confidence of someone who had never been told no in her entire life. She looked at the FBI agents, at the tactical teams, at the vehicles blocking her driveway. And then she smiled. Gentlemen, to what do I owe this pleasure? Margaret Ashford, You're under arrest for the murders of Richard Thompson, Robert Hartley, and Thomas Wheeler. You have the right to remain silent." Margaret's smile didn't waver. "I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. My lawyers will have this sorted out by lunch." The agent put her in handcuffs, and that's when Marcus stepped out of the car. Margaret saw him, and for just a moment, her mask slipped. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by something darker. Recognition. Hatred. Marcus Thompson. Her voice was sweet as poison. Little Marcus, all grown up. Marcus walked toward her, stopping just a few feet away. "You killed my father. Your father was a fool who didn't know his place. You've been stealing from my family for 30 years. Your family," Margaret laughed, "your family built nothing. Richard Thompson was a mediocre businessman with a good idea. I made that company what it is. I deserved every penny. You tried to kidnap my son." Margaret's eyes went cold. "Your son is a complication, just like you, just like your father. Complications that should have been eliminated years ago." Marcus felt rage surge through him. He wanted to wrap his hands around her throat. He wanted to make her suffer the way his family had suffered. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned close and spoke softly, so only she could hear. "My father's name was Richard Thompson. He was a good man, a kind man, and you murdered him because he wouldn't give you what you wanted. But here's the thing, Margaret. You didn't win. You spent 30 years trying to destroy his legacy, and you failed. Thompson Pharmaceuticals is stronger than ever. I'm still standing. My son is safe. And you're going to spend the rest of your miserable life rotting in a prison cell." Margaret's face twisted with fury. "You think this is over? You think you've won? I have connections you can't imagine. Lawyers, judges, politicians who owe me everything. I'll be out by—" "No," Marcus straightened up. "You won't. Because Vanessa gave us everything. Every crime, every murder, every bribe, every dirty deal you've ever made. There's no buying your way out of this. There's no army of lawyers that can save you. It's over, Margaret, and my father sends his regards." He turned and walked away. Behind him, he heard Margaret screaming as they loaded her into the back of an FBI vehicle. "This isn't over. Do you hear me, Marcus? This isn't over. I'll destroy you. I'll destroy everything you love." Marcus didn't look back. At 10:00 a.m., Marcus walked into his house in Bel Air. Patricia was in the living room holding Nathan. When she saw Marcus, she smiled. "He's been asking for you, babbling for you. I think he missed his daddy." Marcus took his son from her arms and held him tight. Nathan grabbed his nose and giggled. "Hey, little man, Daddy's home." He carried Nathan upstairs to the nursery and sat down in the rocking chair. The same chair where he'd sat the night before the FBI raid, watching his son sleep, praying he could keep him safe. "It's over now," Marcus whispered. "The bad people are going away. They can't hurt you anymore." Nathan looked up at him with those innocent blue eyes. "Da-da." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. "That's right. Da-da. And I'm never going to let anything happen to you. Never." He held his son close and rocked him gently, feeling the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on him. His father had been murdered. His fiancée had been a con artist. His assistant had been a traitor. And a woman he'd trusted as a child had been plotting to destroy his family for 30 years. But it was over now. Margaret Ashford was in custody. Vanessa was cooperating. Victor and Kelly were facing decades in prison. And Nathan was safe. That was all that mattered. At 2:30 p.m., Marcus received a call from William Cross. "I saw the news. They arrested her." "They did, thanks to the letter you gave me." "Your father would be proud of you, Marcus. He always believed you'd do great things." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I wish I could have known him better. I was only 12 when he died. He talked about you all the time. You were his whole world. Everything he built for you." And Margaret took it all. "No." William's voice was firm. "She tried to take it, but she failed. Because you're still here. Your company is still standing, and now she's going to pay for everything she's done." Marcus was silent for a moment. "What will you do now you've spent 18 years chasing her?" "I don't know. I've been so focused on this for so long, I forgot what it feels like to just live. You should come visit. Meet Nathan. I think my father would have wanted us to know each other." There was a long pause. I'd like that very much." At 5:00 p.m., Agent Morales called with an update. "Margaret's lawyers are already trying to negotiate, but it's not going to work. The evidence is too solid. The recordings alone are enough for multiple life sentences." "What about Vanessa?" "She's in protective custody. Once she testifies, she'll be relocated under a new identity. And she just walks free." That was the deal. "I know it's not fair, Marcus, but without her cooperation, we might never have gotten Margaret." Marcus thought about Vanessa's face in that interrogation room, the tears, the fear. "She said Margaret would come for Nathan even from prison. Is that true?" "Margaret's network is extensive, but we're dismantling it piece by piece. Victor is cooperating now too. Kelly has given us names of people we didn't even know existed. By the time we're done, there won't be anyone left to carry out Margaret's orders." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Your son is safe, Marcus. I promise you." At 8:00 p.m., Marcus sat in his study holding his father's letter. He'd read it 100 times since William gave it to him. Every word, every sentence, every plea. "Please look after my wife and son." His father had known he was going to die. He'd known Margaret would kill him, and his last thought had been of his family. Marcus carefully folded the letter and placed it in a frame. He would hang it in Nathan's room someday, when his son was old enough to understand. He would tell him about Richard Thompson, the man who had built an empire and given his life trying to protect his family. He would make sure Nathan knew where he came from, and he would make sure Nathan never forgot. At 9:30 p.m., Marcus received one final call. He didn't recognize the number. "Hello, Mr. Thompson." The voice was female, unfamiliar, cold. "Who is this?" "A friend of Margaret's. I wanted to congratulate you on your victory. Very impressive." Marcus felt ice spread through his veins. "Margaret is in custody. It's over." "Oh, Marcus," the woman laughed softly. "It's never over. Margaret was just one piece of a very large puzzle. There are others, many others, and they're all very interested in you now." "Is that a threat?" "It's information. You should know what you're dealing with, what you've stumbled into. This isn't just about your family or your money. This is about something much, much bigger. Who are you? Someone who's been watching you for a very long time, someone who thinks you might be useful. I'm not interested. You will be. When you learn the truth about what's really going on, when you discover that Margaret Ashford was just a small fish in a very large ocean. What truth?" The woman was silent for a moment. "Your father didn't just discover that Margaret was stealing from him. He discovered what she was stealing for, where the money was going, who was really in charge. Who? That's not a conversation for the phone, but when you're ready to know, I'll find you." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, his heart pounding. Margaret was just a small fish. There were others, many others, and they were interested in him now. He looked at the photo of Nathan on his desk. His son, his reason for living. He'd thought this was over. He'd thought his family was finally safe. But standing there in the quiet of his study holding his father's letter, Marcus realized the terrible truth. This was just the beginning. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study until 3 a.m., replaying the mysterious woman's words in his mind. Margaret was just a small fish. There are others, many others. Your father discovered what she was stealing for. What had his father discovered? What was so dangerous that it got him killed? At 6:15 a.m., Marcus called William Cross. "I need to see you. Now." "What happened?" "Someone called me last night. A woman. She said Margaret is just a small piece of something much bigger. She said my father discovered where the money was going." William was silent for a long moment. "Where are you?" "My house." "Stay there. I'm coming." William arrived at 7:30 a.m. Patricia let him in, and Marcus met him in the study. William looked older in the morning light, the weight of 18 years visible in every line on his face. "Tell me exactly what she said." Marcus recounted the conversation word for word. William's face grew paler with each sentence. "This is what I was afraid of," he said quietly. "This is why I never pushed harder, why I gathered evidence but never went to the authorities." "What do you mean?" "Marcus, I told you I've been tracking Margaret for 18 years, but what I didn't tell you is that every time I got close to something real, people started dying." Marcus felt his blood go cold. Who? Witnesses? Informants? A journalist in San Francisco who was investigating Thomas's death. A forensic accountant in Chicago who found irregularities in Margaret's books. A private investigator in Miami who was following Victor's money trail. All dead. All dead. Car accidents, suicides, heart attacks, all within days of making significant discoveries. Marcus sank into his chair. "You're saying there's an organization that kills people who get too close. I'm saying Margaret Ashford was protected, not just by lawyers and politicians, by something much more powerful, something that reaches into every level of government, every major corporation, every institution you can name." That sounds like a conspiracy theory. It sounded like a conspiracy theory to me too, until I started counting the bodies. At 9:00 a.m., Marcus received a call from Agent Morales. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Margaret Ashford made bail." Marcus shot to his feet. "That's impossible. She's charged with multiple murders." Her lawyers argued flight risk was minimal, given her age and community ties. The judge set bail at $50 million. She posted it within an hour. $50 million? Where did she get $50 million? That's what we're trying to figure out. Her known accounts don't have anywhere near that amount. Someone else paid her bail. The mysterious woman's words echoed in Marcus's mind. There are others. Many others. Where is she now? Back at her mansion in Pasadena. We have surveillance on her, but legally there's nothing we can do until the trial. When's the trial? 6 months from now. Maybe longer if her lawyers keep filing motions. 6 months. Margaret Ashford would be free for 6 months. What about Nathan? What about my family? We're maintaining protective surveillance. But Marcus, I have to be honest with you. If Margaret has the resources we think she has, surveillance might not be enough. Marcus hung up and looked at William. She's out. I heard. What do I do? William leaned forward. You do what your father should have done. You find out exactly what Margaret is involved in. You expose the whole thing, and you make sure you have so much evidence, so many copies, so many people watching, that killing you would only make things worse for them. How do I find out? Your father kept records, detailed records. He was meticulous about everything. If he discovered something, he wrote it down. His records were destroyed after he died. My mother said there was a fire at his office. A convenient fire. But your father wasn't stupid. He would have kept copies somewhere safe, somewhere no one would think to look. Marcus thought for a moment. The cabin. What cabin? My grandfather's hunting cabin in Big Bear. My father used to take me there when I was a kid. He said it was our secret place, our escape from everything. Could he have hidden documents there? It's the only place I can think of that no one else knew about. At 11:30 a.m., Marcus drove toward Big Bear. He'd left Nathan with Patricia and a security team. James Mitchell had men watching the house around the clock. William Cross was coordinating with Agent Morales to track Margaret's movements. The drive took 2 hours. Marcus spent most of it thinking about his father. Richard Thompson had been a quiet man, gentle. He'd worked long hours, but he'd always made time for Marcus. Bedtime stories, weekend fishing trips, long talks about life and business and what it meant to be a good person. And someone had taken him away. Someone had murdered him and made it look like an accident. And Marcus had spent 22 years not knowing. The cabin appeared through the trees just after 1:00 p.m. It looked smaller than Marcus remembered, weathered. The paint was peeling and the porch sagged in places. But it was still standing, still here after all these years. Marcus got out of his car and walked toward the front door. The key was where it had always been hidden under a loose stone by the steps. His father had shown him that hiding spot when he was 7 years old. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The cabin smelled like dust and old memories. Marcus stood in the living room looking around at furniture covered in white sheets, at photographs still hanging on the walls. His father's face stared back at him from a dozen frames, smiling, alive, happy. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "I'm sorry it took me so long, Dad," he whispered, "but I'm here now, and I'm going to finish what you started." He began searching. He checked every drawer, every closet, every loose floorboard. He looked behind paintings and under mattresses and inside the old stone fireplace. Nothing. At 2:45 p.m., Marcus sat down on the dusty couch, exhausted and frustrated. Maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe there was nothing here. Maybe his father's secrets had died with him. And then he remembered. The treehouse. His father had built it when Marcus was 8 years old, in the big oak tree behind the cabin. They'd spent an entire summer constructing it together, hammering nails and sawing wood and painting it bright blue. Marcus rushed outside and around the back of the cabin. The treehouse was still there 40 feet up in the ancient oak. The blue paint had faded to gray, and the wooden ladder was missing several rungs, but the structure itself looked intact. Marcus climbed carefully, testing each rung before putting his weight on it. He reached the platform and pulled himself inside. The treehouse was smaller than he remembered, barely big enough for an adult to sit comfortably. But in the corner, covered in cobwebs, was a metal box he'd never seen before. Marcus's hands trembled as he reached for it. The box was locked. A simple combination lock. Marcus tried his birthday. Nothing. He tried his father's birthday. Nothing. He tried his mother's birthday. Nothing. He sat back thinking, what would his father have used? What number would he have chosen that no one else would guess? And then it hit him. The date of the hunting cabin purchase, August 15th, 1987, the day his grandfather had bought this land and started building. 0815. The lock clicked open. Inside the box were documents, dozens of them, financial records, photographs, handwritten notes, and at the very top, a letter addressed to Marcus. "My son, if you're reading this, it means the worst has happened. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there to watch you grow up, but I need you to know the truth about what I discovered. Margaret Ashford is just the beginning. She's part of something called the Foundation. They've been operating for over 50 years, targeting wealthy families, stealing their assets, eliminating anyone who gets in their way. I have proof of everything. Names, dates, transactions. It's all in this box. Use it. Expose them. And please, please be careful. These people will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. I love you more than you'll ever know. Dad." Marcus read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. His father had left him everything, a roadmap to the truth. He gathered the documents and climbed down from the treehouse. At 4:30 p.m., Marcus was back in Los Angeles. He drove straight to Diana Chen's office and spread the documents across her conference table. "What am I looking at?" Diana asked. "The reason my father was killed. He called it the Foundation, an organization that targets wealthy families, steals their assets, and eliminates anyone who tries to stop them." Diana picked up one of the documents and studied it. "These are bank records, transfers between shell companies in the Cayman, Switzerland, Singapore. The amounts are..." "Marcus, this is hundreds of millions of dollars. Keep reading." Diana flipped through more pages. Her face grew paler with each one. "These are names. Judges, politicians, CEOs. Are you saying these people are all part of this organization?" "According to my father, yes. Some of these names are very powerful, Marcus. If this gets out..." "That's exactly why it needs to get out." Diana set down the documents and looked at him. "This is dangerous. More dangerous than anything we've dealt with before. Margaret Ashford was one woman with some criminal connections. This is a network, a system. They have resources we can't even imagine." "I know. They'll try to stop you. They'll try to kill you. They killed my father. They tried to kidnap my son. They've already done their worst. No, Marcus, they haven't. Not even close. At 6:15 p.m., Marcus received a text from an unknown number. You found the box. Impressive. Meet me at the Roosevelt Hotel. Room 714. Come alone. It's time you learned the full truth. Marcus stared at the message. It had to be the woman who'd called him, the one who said Margaret was just a small fish. He should tell Agent Morales. He should bring backup. He should do anything except walk into an obvious trap. But he needed answers. At 7:30 p.m., Marcus walked into the Roosevelt Hotel on Hollywood Boulevard. He took the elevator to the 7th floor and found room 714 at the end of the hallway. He knocked. The door opened. The woman standing before him was in her 60s, elegant and composed with silver hair, swept back from a face that radiated intelligence and power. Mr. Thompson, please come in. Marcus stepped inside. The room was a suite, expensive and tastefully furnished. 2 armchairs faced each other near the window. Please sit. The woman gestured to one of the chairs. Can I offer you a drink? I didn't come here to socialize. Who are you? My name is Eleanor Price, and I've been watching you for a very long time. Are you part of the foundation? Eleanor smiled. I was part of the foundation. For 32 years, I helped build it into what it is today, but 3 years ago, I had a crisis of conscience. What kind of crisis? The kind that happens when you realize the organization you've devoted your life to has become a monster. The foundation started with noble intentions, believe it or not. We were supposed to redistribute wealth, balance the scales of economic inequality. But over time, the mission changed. Power corrupted us. And now you kill people. Now we do whatever is necessary to protect our interests. Yes. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. You're a murderer. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I've never killed anyone. I was administration, strategy. I planned operations. I didn't carry them out. That's supposed to make me feel better. No. It's supposed to help you understand that I know everything. Every operation, every target, every secret. And I want to help you bring it all down. Marcus studied her face. Why? Why would you turn against the organization you spent 30 years building? Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Because of a girl named Sophia. She was 12 years old. The daughter of a businessman in Argentina we were targeting. She wasn't supposed to be hurt. She was supposed to be leverage. But something went wrong and she... Eleanor's voice broke. She died. An innocent child died because of an operation I planned. And I realized I had become exactly the kind of monster I once believed I was fighting against. So you want redemption? I want justice. For Sophia, for your father, for everyone the Foundation has destroyed. How do I know I can trust you? Eleanor reached into her bag and pulled out a thick folder. This is everything. The complete organizational structure of the Foundation. Bank accounts, safe houses, operative identities. The names of every corrupt official they've purchased, and most importantly, the location of their central archive. Central archive. Physical records of every operation going back 50 years. The Foundation is old-fashioned in some ways. They don't trust digital storage. Everything is documented on paper and stored in a secure facility in Nevada. Why would they keep records that could incriminate them? Insurance? Leverage? If any member ever tries to leave or betray the organization, those records can be used against them. It's how they maintain control. Marcus took the folder. If I expose this, you go down too. I know, I'm prepared for that. 3 years of hiding and running is enough. I'm tired, Marcus. I want this to end, one way or another. At 9:00 p.m., Marcus returned home. Nathan was already asleep. Patricia reported that everything had been quiet. The security team had seen nothing suspicious, but Marcus couldn't relax. He spread Eleanor's documents across his study floor and began reading. The scope of the Foundation was staggering. Thousands of members across every continent. Operations targeting families in America, Europe, Asia, South America. Billions of dollars stolen over 5 decades. Hundreds of deaths. And at the top of the organizational chart, a name Marcus didn't recognize. Jonathan Mercer. He called William Cross. "Does the name Jonathan Mercer mean anything to you?" William was silent for a long moment. "Where did you hear that name?" "I met someone, a former Foundation member. She gave me documents. Mercer is listed as the head of the organization." "Marcus Jonathan Mercer is a ghost. I've been hearing that name for 18 years, but no one has ever seen him. No photographs, no public records, nothing. Some people think he doesn't even exist, that he's just a myth the Foundation uses to make themselves seem more powerful. This woman seemed pretty sure he exists." "Who is this woman?" "Her name is Eleanor Price. She says she was part of the Foundation for 32 years. Another long pause. "I know that name. Eleanor Price was Margaret Ashford's handler. She was the one who gave Margaret her targets, including your father." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "She was involved in my father's murder. If she's who she says she is, she didn't just participate. She planned it." Marcus stared at the document spread across his floor. Eleanor had seemed sincere, remorseful, broken, but she was also the woman who had helped kill his father. "What do I do?" "You use her, get every piece of information you can, and then you make sure she faces justice along with everyone else." At 11:30 p.m., Marcus received a call from Agent Morales. "We have a situation. Margaret Ashford is on the move." "What do you mean?" "She left her mansion an hour ago. We followed her to LAX. She's booked on a flight to Singapore. It leaves in 2 hours. She's running. It looks that way. We've contacted international authorities, but without an extradition treaty, she gets away." "I'm sorry, Marcus. We're doing everything we can." Marcus hung up and sat in the darkness of his study. Margaret Ashford was going to escape. After everything she'd done, after killing his father, after trying to kidnap his son, she was going to fly away to the other side of the world and live out her days in luxury, unless someone stopped her. At 11:45 p.m., Marcus made a decision. He called James Mitchell. "I need you to meet me at LAX, now." "What's happening?" "Margaret is trying to flee the country. I'm not going to let that happen." "Marcus, whatever you're thinking, it's a bad idea." "Maybe, but I'm doing it anyway." Marcus grabbed his keys and ran to his car. The drive to LAX took 23 minutes at that hour. Marcus pushed his Mercedes to its limits, weaving through the light traffic, his mind focused on one thing. Margaret Ashford was not going to escape. He arrived at the international terminal at 12:08 a.m. James was waiting for him at the entrance. "This is crazy. You know that, right?" "I know. Where is she?" "Security says she already cleared check-in. She's probably in the business class lounge by now." "Can you get me in?" James hesitated. "I have a contact who works airport security. But Marcus, if you confront her in public in front of witnesses—" "I don't care. I'm not letting her get on that plane." James made a phone call. 5 minutes later, a man in a TSA uniform appeared and led them through a series of restricted areas. The business class lounge was quiet at this hour. Soft music, dim lighting, a few scattered travelers drinking cocktails and checking their phones. And in the corner, sitting alone with a glass of champagne, was Margaret Ashford. She looked up as Marcus approached. Her expression shifted from surprise to amusement. "Marcus, what a pleasant surprise. Have you come to wish me bon voyage?" "You're not getting on that plane." "Oh, and who's going to stop me, you?" She laughed softly. "You're too late, my boy. I have friends in Singapore who will make sure I'm very well taken care of. And once I'm there, your FBI can't touch me." "The Foundation won't protect you forever. You failed them. Vanessa, Victor Kelly, they all got arrested because of your operation. The Foundation doesn't tolerate failure." Something flickered in Margaret's eyes. Fear. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have documents, names, dates, transactions. I know about Jonathan Mercer. I know about the Central Archive in Nevada. I know everything." Margaret's face went pale. "That's impossible. Eleanor Price sends her regards." For the first time since Marcus had known her, Margaret looked genuinely afraid. "Eleanor is dead. She died 3 years ago. She's very much alive, and she's told me everything." Margaret stood up abruptly, her champagne glass falling to the floor. "You're bluffing. You have to be bluffing." "Am I? Call your friends at the foundation. Ask them about the warehouse in Nevada. Ask them about the accounts in Zurich. Ask them about Operation Harvest and Operation Meridian and Operation Blackwood." Marcus stepped closer. "You thought you could destroy my family and walk away clean. You thought you were untouchable, but you made one mistake, Margaret. You let me live, and now I'm going to take everything from you. Your freedom, your money, your precious foundation. Everything." Margaret's face twisted with rage. "You stupid boy! You have no idea what you've done. The foundation doesn't forgive. They don't forget. You've just signed your own death warrant." "Maybe, but I'm taking you down with me." He looked at James. "Call Agent Morales. Tell her Margaret Ashford just confessed to being part of a criminal organization. I'm pretty sure that violates her bail conditions." At 1:30 a.m., Margaret Ashford was taken into custody for the second time. But this time, there would be no bail, no expensive lawyers, no escape. Marcus stood outside the terminal watching as they loaded her into an FBI vehicle. She looked at him through the window, her eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over," she mouthed. Marcus just smiled. "Yes, it is." At 3:00 a.m., Marcus finally returned home. Nathan was still sleeping peacefully. Patricia had stayed up worried about Marcus's sudden departure. "Is everything okay, sir?" "Everything is perfect, Patricia. For the first time in a very long time, everything is perfect." He went upstairs to Nathan's room and stood over the crib, his son, his reason for living, safe and sound. "I stopped her, little man," Marcus whispered. "She can't hurt us anymore." Nathan stirred in his sleep, a small smile crossing his tiny face. Marcus leaned down and kissed his forehead. "And I'm not done yet. There's still more work to do, more people to stop. But I promise you I will make this world safe for you, whatever it takes." At 7:00 a.m., Marcus received a call from Eleanor Price. "I heard what happened at the airport. Impressive." "Margaret mentioned you. She said you were dead." "That was the story the foundation spread when I disappeared. They couldn't admit that one of their senior members had defected." "She also said I've signed my own death warrant." "She's not wrong. The foundation will come for you now. You've exposed too much. You know too much." "So what do I do?" "You finish what you started. You take down the entire organization. The archive in Nevada, that's the key. Every secret, every crime, every name. If you expose that archive, the foundation collapses." "How do I get to it?" "That's what we need to discuss. In person, tonight. Same hotel, same room." "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't, but you've already proven you're not afraid to take risks. And this is the biggest risk of all, the chance to destroy the organization that killed your father." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Tonight, 8 p.m. He hung up and looked out the window at the Los Angeles skyline. The foundation was coming for him. He knew that. But he also knew something they didn't. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was hunting. And he wouldn't stop until every last one of them was destroyed. Marcus arrived at the Roosevelt Hotel at exactly 8 p.m. Eleanor Price was waiting in room 714 just as before, but this time she wasn't alone. A man sat in the corner, his face hidden in shadow. Marcus tensed. "Who is that? Someone you need to meet." Eleanor gestured to the man. "Please show yourself." The man stood and stepped into the light. He was in his 70s, tall and gaunt with white hair and eyes that seemed to look straight through Marcus. There was something familiar about his face, something Marcus couldn't quite place. "Hello, Marcus," the man said. "My name is Jonathan Mercer." Marcus felt his heart stop. "You're supposed to be a myth." "Most leaders prefer it that way. Shadows are safer than spotlight." Mercer walked closer, studying Marcus with unsettling intensity. "You've caused quite a stir these past few weeks. Margaret Ashford was one of our most valuable assets. Now she's facing life in prison. She killed my father. She did what was necessary." Necessary. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "She murdered an innocent man because he wouldn't give her what she wanted." Your father was far from innocent. He discovered our operation and threatened to expose us. That made him a liability." Mercer shrugged. "We don't tolerate liabilities. Is that why you're here, to eliminate another liability?" Mercer smiled. "If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I'm here to make you an offer." Marcus looked at Eleanor. "You set me up." "No." Eleanor shook her head. "I didn't know he was coming." "Jonathan, what are you doing?" "Recruiting." Mercer turned back to Marcus. "You've impressed me, Mr. Thompson. Your intelligence, your determination, your willingness to take risks. Those are rare qualities the Foundation values. You want me to join the organization that killed my father? I want you to understand what the Foundation really is. We're not villains, Marcus. We're architects. We identify wealth that's being wasted, hoarded by people who don't deserve it, who haven't earned it, and we redistribute it to those who will use it productively. You steal from families and murder anyone who gets in your way. We remove obstacles. There's a difference." Marcus stared at him. "You're insane." "I'm practical. The world is full of mediocre people sitting on fortunes they inherited by accident of birth. Your father was one of them. He built a company, yes, but he lacked the vision to see what it could become. Under Margaret's guidance, Thompson Pharmaceuticals has grown 10 times larger than Richard ever imagined." "Under Margaret's theft, you mean?" "Semantics." Mercer waved his hand dismissively. "The point is, you have a choice. Join us, and you'll have access to resources beyond your imagination. Power, influence, protection. Your son will grow up wanting for nothing, or refuse and—" He spread his hands. "Well, you know what happens to liabilities." Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. "That's your pitch. Join us or die." "I prefer to think of it as join us and thrive. Let me make you a counteroffer." Marcus stepped closer to Mercer, close enough to see the surprise flicker in the old man's eyes. "Turn yourself in. Confess to everything. Spend the rest of your miserable life in prison, or I will personally destroy everything you've built." Mercer's smile faded. "You're making a mistake." "No, my father made a mistake. He tried to fight you alone. I'm not alone." Marcus pulled out his phone and pressed a button. The door to the hotel room burst open. FBI agents flooded in, weapons drawn. "Jonathan Mercer, you're under arrest." Mercer spun toward Eleanor, his face contorted with rage. "You betrayed me." "I told you 3 years ago," Eleanor said quietly. "I was done being a monster." They handcuffed Mercer and led him toward the door. He stopped beside Marcus. "This changes nothing. The Foundation is bigger than me, bigger than any one person. You can't destroy an idea. Watch me." At 10:30 p.m., Marcus sat in Agent Morales' office at the FBI field headquarters. "How did you know Mercer would show up?" Morales asked. "I didn't, but I knew Eleanor was my best chance of getting to him, so I took a risk." "One hell of a risk. If he'd decided to kill you instead of recruit you, then at least you would have had him on murder charges." Morales shook her head. "You're either the bravest man I've ever met or the craziest." "Probably both." Morales leaned back in her chair. "With Mercer in custody, the Foundation's leadership is crippled. But Eleanor was right about one thing. There are thousands of members across the world. Taking down the whole organization could take years. Then we'd better get started." Marcus met her eyes. "My father died trying to expose these people. I'm not going to stop until every last one of them faces justice." Morales studied him for a long moment. "The FBI doesn't usually work with civilians." "I'm not asking to be an agent. I'm asking to be a partner. I have resources, connections, information that took my father years to gather. Use me." "And what do you want in return?" "Justice. For my father. For Thomas Wheeler. For every family these people have destroyed." Morales was quiet for a long moment. "I'll have to clear it with my superiors, but unofficially, welcome to the team." The trial began 4 months later. Marcus sat in the front row of the federal courthouse every single day. He watched as Margaret Ashford was convicted of multiple counts of murder, conspiracy, and fraud. He watched as Victor Reyes and Kelly Morrison received sentences of 25 years each. He watched as Jonathan Mercer, the ghost, who had haunted the Foundation for 50 years, was finally brought into the light. and he watched as one by one the names from his father's documents were arrested, tried, and convicted. Corrupt politicians, dirty judges, corporate executives who had helped launder the foundation's stolen wealth. It took 2 years to dismantle the entire organization. 2 years of trials, investigations, and sleepless nights. 2 years of threats, intimidation attempts, and close calls. 2 years of fighting an enemy that seemed to have tentacles everywhere. But Marcus never gave up. Every time he felt like quitting, he looked at Nathan. He looked at his father's letter. He remembered why he was fighting, and he kept going. The final trial ended on a Tuesday afternoon in March. Marcus walked out of the courthouse into the California sunshine, Nathan's hand in his. His son was 3 years old now, walking and talking and asking questions about everything. "Daddy, why are all those people taking pictures?" Marcus looked at the crowd of reporters gathered on the courthouse steps. "Because something important happened today, buddy." "What happened?" Marcus knelt down to his son's level. "The bad people who hurt your grandfather are going away forever. They can't hurt anyone anymore." Nathan's eyes went wide. "Grandpa Richard." "That's right, Grandpa Richard. Is he happy now?" Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "I think so, buddy. I think he's very happy." William Cross was waiting by Marcus's car. He looked different than he had 3 years ago. Lighter somehow. The weight that had bent his shoulders for 18 years was finally gone. "It's over," William said. "I can hardly believe it." "It's over." Marcus shook his hand. "Thank you, William, for everything. For the letter, for the information, for never giving up." "I should be thanking you. You did what I couldn't. You brought them all down. We did it together. You, me, Agent Morales, Eleanor." "Speaking of Eleanor, did you hear?" "Hear what?" "She got 15 years, reduced sentence in exchange for her cooperation, but still 15 years. Marcus nodded slowly. "She helped kill my father. 15 years isn't enough. But without her, we never would have gotten Mercer. Justice is messy sometimes." "Yeah, it is." William looked at Nathan, who was trying to catch a butterfly that had landed nearby. "He's beautiful. Your father would have loved him." "I know. I wish they could have met." "In a way they have. Richard lives on in Nathan, in you, in everything you've built." Marcus watched his son chase the butterfly, laughing with pure joy. "I'm going to tell him everything someday, when he's old enough, about his grandfather, about what happened, about all of it. He'll be proud of you." "I hope so. I just hope I can be half the father mine was." That evening, Marcus sat in Nathan's room reading him a bedtime story. It was a simple story about a lion who protected his family from danger. Nathan's favorite. "Daddy, yeah, buddy. Are there really bad people in the world?" Marcus set down the book. "Yes, Nathan, there are bad people, but there are also good people. People who fight to protect others, people who stand up for what's right. Like you." Marcus felt his heart swell. "I try to be, every day. I want to be like you when I grow up. You know what I think you'll be even better." Nathan smiled and closed his eyes. Marcus sat there for a long time, watching his son sleep, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 years ago, he'd come home from the grand opening of his factory to find his fiancée standing over his baby with a skillet in her hand. In that moment, his entire world had shattered. But from the pieces he'd built something stronger. He'd discovered the truth about his father's death. He'd exposed a criminal organization that had been operating for 50 years. He'd brought justice to everyone who had tried to destroy his family, and most importantly, he'd kept his son safe. At 9:00 p.m., Marcus received a phone call. "Mr. Thompson, this is Michael Hartley, Robert Hartley's son." Marcus remembered the name. Robert Hartley, Margaret Ashford's first victim. "Michael, how can I help you?" "I just wanted to thank you for everything you did. My father, I always knew his death wasn't an accident. But no one believed me. And now finally people know the truth. I'm sorry it took so long." "It doesn't matter how long it took. What matters is that you didn't give up. You fought for your father, and in doing so, you fought for mine too." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. I'm just glad I could help. There's something else. A group of us families of foundation victims we've been talking. We want to start a foundation of our own, not the evil kind. Michael laughed weakly. A real one, to help families recover from financial crimes, to provide legal resources, counseling, support. That sounds incredible. We were hoping you'd lead it. Marcus was silent. Mr. Thompson, I'm here. I never expected. You're the one who brought them down. You're the one who gave us all hope. There's no one better qualified to help others go through what we went through. Marcus thought about his father's letter. Please look after my wife and son. His father had spent his final days trying to protect his family. Now Marcus had a chance to protect other families. I'll do it. Really. Let's build something that actually helps people. Something my father would have been proud of. The Richard Thompson Foundation launched 6 months later. Marcus poured everything into it. His money, his time, his energy. He hired lawyers who worked pro bono for families victimized by financial crimes. He established counseling centers for people recovering from betrayal and trauma. He created educational programs to help people recognize the warning signs of manipulation. And he told his story, again and again, in interviews, speeches, and eventually a book. He called it The Wounded Lion. The book became a phenomenon. It spent 42 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It was translated into 23 languages. It was adapted into a documentary that won 3 Emmy Awards. But more importantly, it helped people. Marcus received thousands of letters from readers who recognized their own situations in his story. Men and women who had been manipulated by partners they trusted. Parents who had discovered their children were in danger. Survivors who had been afraid to speak up. They told him that his book had given them the courage to act, to leave toxic relationships, to protect their children, to fight back. And every letter reminded Marcus why he'd written it, not for fame, not for money, not for revenge, for them. 5 years after the final trial, Marcus stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. The audience before him was filled with senators, representatives, and government officials. He'd been invited to speak before Congress about financial crimes and the need for stronger protections for victims. 5 years ago, Marcus began, I came home from work and found the woman I loved standing over my infant son with a weapon in her hand. In that moment, I learned that the people closest to us can be the most dangerous, that trust can be weaponized, that love can be a lie. He paused, letting the words sink in. My father learned that lesson 25 years before I did, and it cost him his life. He discovered that his business partner was stealing from him. He tried to do the right thing, and she had him killed. For 22 years, I didn't know the truth. I thought my father died in an accident. I had no idea that the woman who hugged me at his funeral, who brought me cookies, who helped my mother manage the company, was the same woman who had ordered his murder. The organization that killed my father operated for over 50 years. They stole billions of dollars. They destroyed hundreds of families. And they did it all in plain sight, protected by corrupt officials, shielded by expensive lawyers, hidden behind respectable facades. But we brought them down. Not because I was special, not because I was brave, but because I refused to let my son become their next victim, because I refused to let my father's death be meaningless. Marcus looked out at the audience. Every person in this room has the power to protect families like mine. You can pass laws that make it harder for predators to operate. You can fund agencies that investigate financial crimes. You can create systems that catch these people before they destroy innocent lives. Or you can do nothing. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, there will be another family sitting where I sat. Another father learning that everything he believed was a lie. Another child growing up without a parent because we failed to act. He leaned forward. My father didn't have anyone to fight for him, but I did. And now I'm fighting for everyone who doesn't have a voice. Will you join me? The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. After the speech, Marcus was approached by a young woman. She looked nervous, clutching a worn copy of The Wounded Lion. Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry to bother you. I needed to talk to you. Of course. What's your name? Sarah. Sarah Wheeler. Marcus felt his heart skip. Thomas Wheeler's daughter. Tears filled her eyes. I was 8 years old when my father died. Everyone said it was suicide. Even my own mother believed it. But I knew he would never leave me, not like that. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Don't be sorry, be proud. She held up the book. This saved my life. After my father died, I fell apart. Drugs, bad relationships, years of just destruction. And then I read your book. And I realized I wasn't crazy. My father was murdered. And someone was finally telling the truth. I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have saved him. You did save him. You saved his memory. You proved that he was a victim, not a coward. You gave me my father back. She hugged him, crying against his shoulder, and Marcus held her, thinking about all the families that had been shattered by the foundation, all the children who had grown up without parents, all the spouses who had been gaslit into believing lies. He couldn't bring them back. He couldn't undo the damage, but he could make sure it never happened again. 10 years after the night in the nursery, Marcus sat in his study in Bel Air. Nathan was 13 now, a bright, curious teenager who asked too many questions and talked too fast and reminded Marcus of himself at that age. Dad, can I ask you something? Marcus looked up from his laptop. Of course. Nathan sat down across from him. At school today, we watched that documentary about you, about the foundation and everything that happened. I know, your teacher called to warn me. Some kids said my mom was a bad person, that she tried to hurt me when I was a baby. Marcus closed his laptop. Come here. Nathan walked over and Marcus pulled him into a hug. Vanessa Cole was never your mother. She was someone who pretended to love us to get what she wanted. But she didn't get it, because I stopped her. But she was there when I was born. She held me, she fed me. And then she tried to kidnap you. She was going to take you away from me forever. Marcus pulled back and looked his son in the eyes. I know this is hard to understand. I know it's confusing. But you need to know that I will always protect you. Always. No matter what. I know, Dad. Good. Marcus ruffled his hair. Now, do you have any other questions? Just one. What is it? Nathan's eyes were serious. Was Grandpa Richard a good person? Marcus felt his throat tighten. He was the best person I ever knew. He was kind, honest, hardworking. He loved his family more than anything, and he died trying to protect us from people who wanted to hurt us. I wish I could have met him. He would have loved you so much. He would have been so proud of who you're becoming. Nathan smiled. I want to be like him, like both of you. I want to help people. Then you will. I know you will. That night, Marcus stood in the nursery that had long since been converted into a guest room. He remembered standing here 15 years ago, watching Nathan sleep, promising to keep him safe. He'd kept that promise, against con artists and criminals, against a 50-year-old conspiracy, against an organization that had killed his father and tried to destroy everything he loved. He'd fought them all, and he'd won. Not because he was stronger or smarter or braver than anyone else, but because he was a father, and fathers don't give up on their children. Marcus looked at the framed letter on the wall, his father's final words. I did it, Dad, he whispered. I took care of our family. I finished what you started. For a moment, he could almost feel his father's presence. A warmth, a peace, a sense of completion. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Thanks for talking to me today. Love you, Dad. Marcus smiled and typed back, Love you too, buddy. Always. He put the phone away and walked to the window. The Los Angeles skyline glittered in the distance. Somewhere out there, families were being protected by the foundation he'd built. Survivors were finding hope in his story. Predators were being caught before they could destroy innocent lives. His father had planted a seed 25 years ago when he'd first discovered Margaret's betrayal. He'd watered it with his final letter. And Marcus had grown it into something that would outlast them both. The foundation was gone. Margaret was in prison. Jonathan Mercer would die behind bars, and the Richard Thompson Foundation would continue helping families for generations to come. Marcus Thompson had been wounded. He'd been betrayed. He'd been broken. But he'd risen again, stronger than before, because that's what lions do. They protect their pride. And Marcus Thompson's pride, his son, his legacy, his family was safe, at last. 20 years later, Nathan Thompson stood at a podium accepting an award for his work in victim advocacy. He was 33 years old. He'd followed in his father's footsteps, taking over the Richard Thompson Foundation and expanding it into the largest victim support organization in the world. "Everything I am," Nathan said, looking out at the audience, "I owe to my father. He taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. He taught me that justice isn't guaranteed, it has to be fought for. And he taught me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who stand beside you when the world falls apart." In the front row, Marcus Thompson wiped tears from his eyes. Beside him sat his wife, a woman he'd met at a survivors support group who understood what he'd been through, who loved him not despite his scars, but because of them. And beside her sat William Cross, now in his 90s, still sharp as ever, still committed to the cause that had defined his life. "My grandfather died fighting for the truth," Nathan continued. "My father nearly died exposing the people who killed him, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure their sacrifices were not in vain." He lifted his award. "This isn't for me. It's for every family that's been torn apart by predators. It's for every survivor who found the courage to speak up. And it's for Richard Thompson, the man I never met, whose legacy lives on in everything we do." The audience rose to their feet. Marcus looked at his son, strong, confident, purposeful, and felt a peace he'd never known was possible. He thought about Rosa the maid, who had begged Vanessa to stop. He thought about the skillet raised above Nathan's crib. He thought about the moment he'd walked through his front door and discovered that everything he believed was a lie. That moment had nearly destroyed him. But it had also saved him. It had set him on a path that led to justice, to purpose, to a legacy that would outlast them all. Marcus Thompson had entered that nursery as a man who had everything and knew nothing. He'd walked out as a father who would burn the world down to protect his child. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the money, not the fame, not the awards or the books or the speeches. Just a father and his son, standing together, unbroken, because the maid had tried to stop her. And because of that moment, that single, desperate act of courage, Marcus had come home early. He had seen the truth. He had saved his son. And he had become the lion his father always knew he could be. The wounded lion who refused to die. The wounded lion who rose again. The wounded lion who protected his pride. Forever.